Let us continue our journey in the MCQs of basic course in biomedical research. Now coming to the fifth chapter, that is the descriptive study designs. Let us see the first question. Study designs useful for describing the uncommon clinical manifestations are uncommon clinical manifestations are A. Case reports, B. Case series, C. Both A and B, or D. Ecological study. What is the answer? The answer for this question is C. Both A and B, that is both case series and case reports are useful for describing the uncommon clinical manifestations. Now second question. Cross-sectional studies are used to. The options are A. Estimate the prevalence, B. Generate the hypothesis, C. Describe the trends, or D. All of the above. What is the answer? The answer for this question is D. All of the above. That is, they are helpful for estimating the prevalence of the disease, to generate the hypothesis, and to describe the trends. Okay. Now see this explanation on cross-sectional surveys and also on the uses of cross-sectional surveys. So from our question was cross-sectional studies are used to estimate prevalence, generate hypothesis, and describe the trends. If you see over here, they have clearly mentioned uses of cross-sectional surveys. You see this point, the last point, to examine the evolving trends. So this is mentioned over here. Also to generate the hypothesis. This was another option which was given in the question. Evolving trends and generate hypothesis were the two options in the question. And the third option, we have seen this option, and now comes the estimation of prevalence. See the cross-sectional survey. Now see the second point. It is used to collect the information about disease burden, also known as the prevalence studies. So this has been mentioned as an option. Also to mention, there will be a question coming in the coming questions where they will ask which is the best study to collect information about disease burden. Then you have to take the answer as cross-sectional surveys. Please remember this point. So disease burden, cross-sectional surveys, prevalence studies, cross-sectional surveys. Another type of question will be, they will be asking one or more outcomes, then you take cross-sectional study. One or more exposures, cross-sectional study. Also we have seen over here, to generate the hypothesis, cross-sectional study. To examine the evolving trends, cross-sectional study. So I request all the students to get well versed with this chart and this chart. One question can definitely be asked either from this chart or from this chart, or otherwise one from each chart regarding the cross-sectional surveys. Let us see the next question. In a cross-sectional study, we can observe one or more outcomes. Is it a true statement or a false statement? In a cross-sectional study, definitely it is a true statement. It can be either one or more outcomes. Now, let us see the next question. Which one of the following is useful to measure the burden or the magnitude of a disease or a risk factor? The options they gave are A. Case control study, B. Cross-sectional study, C is a case report, or D. Case series. What is the answer for this question? Which one of the following is useful to measure the burden or magnitude plus risk factors? So among the options given are option number B, that is cross-sectional study, is the answer. Now see over here, we took the answer as option number B, that is B, cross-sectional studies. Okay, now how does it go? In the question, what they have asked, once again we will see which one of the following is useful to measure the burden or magnitude of a disease or a risk factor they have asked. Now in this chart, let us see, there are two types of cross-sectional studies. One is a descriptive type of cross-sectional study, another one is the analytical type of cross-sectional study. Now let us see whether our options will fit in this or not. In the question they have asked which one of the following was useful to measure the magnitude of a disease or a burden of a disease or a risk factor. Now you see there is a written over here a risk factor. Disease and suspected risk factors population or specific individuals they can be seen in the descriptive type of cross-sectional studies. And in the overview of the cross-sectional studies or cross-sectional surveys, they collect the information about the disease burden. Okay, so these are also called as the prevalence studies. So once again, looking at our options, in the cross-sectional study, they have asked regarding the burden, they have asked regarding the risk factor. Both of them are there in the cross-sectional studies. So the answer for this question will be that cross-sectional study is the answer for this question. Let us continue with the next question. Which of the following is wrong about descriptive study designs? The options they gave are A. Describe the study outcome for one group. B. Compare the study outcomes for two groups. C. Calculate the incidence for surveillance data. Or D. Calculate the prevalence for cross-sectional study. What is the answer for this question? Which of the following is wrong? They have said wrong about the descriptive study designs. The answer is that option number B is wrong. The rest of the options are correct. Let us see the options which are correct. Describe the study outcome for one group is correct regarding the descriptive study designs. Third option, that is calculate the incidence for surveillance data, is also correct, and calculate the prevalence for cross-sectional study is also a correct statement. But the comparing the study outcomes for two groups is wrong statement about the descriptive study designs. Please remember this. Let us see the next question. Descriptive epidemiology study designs can answer all of the following questions except. The options are A. Who, B. When, C is where, and D is why. So who, when, where are used, all these three are used in the descriptive type of epidemiological studies except why. So why is not used. So the answer for this question is why. Answer for this question is why. Please remember this point. Next question. Which one of the following study designs does not employ comparison groups to answer the primary study objectives? Does not employ comparison groups to answer the primary study objectives. The options are A. Descriptive cross-sectional study, B. Cohort study, C is analytical cross-sectional study, or D is clinical trials. So what is the answer for this question? The answer for this question is A. Descriptive cross-sectional studies. Now see, we have taken the answer as descriptive type of cross-sectional study. How does this go? We have to be keeping in our minds these two charts. These are the charts of the different types of epidemiological studies. Let us see, like this is chart A and this is chart B. First we will see the chart B. Okay, did the investigator assign any exposures? If it is yes, then it will be an experimental type of study. If it is no, then it will be an observational type of study. Please remember this point. Then next, in the observational type of study, if there is any comparison group, then it will be an analytical type of study. If there is no comparison group, then it will be a descriptive type of study. So from our options of the question, see in this question they have asked which one of the following was the design which did not employ any comparison group. So descriptive type of cross-sectional study was the answer. So here we got our answer, descriptive type of cross-sectional study. Here is our answer. Now let us see the other options, why they are not there. The other options were cohort study, analytical type of cross-sectional study, and clinical trials. Now see over here. In the experimental type of study where they have assigned exposures, if you go further down, if there is any random allocation, then you will have the randomized control trial. If there is no random allocation, then there is non-randomized control trial. So whatever it is, the clinical trials come under the experimental type of study. Okay, so therefore where there is experimental type of study, there is no the comparison group clause will not come. So therefore we have not taken the clinical trials as our answer. Then next was another option was analytical cross-sectional study and cohort study. Where do they both stand? Now see over here, in the analytical type of study where the comparison group was present. Okay, if you go further down, you will have the cohort study, and then you have the case control study, and also you will have the cross-sectional study. What is cohort study? What is case control study? And what is analytical type of cross-sectional study? They have been dealt in detail in another chapter. Okay, so over here just we will mention the names. So in the analytical type of study, you will have the cohort study, case control study, and the analytical cross-sectional study. Let us see the options again. The cohort study was there. Okay, so we have not taken this as an answer. Analytical cross-sectional study was there. Analytical cross-sectional study was there. Okay, even this also we have not taken as an answer. So our answer for this question was, the answer for this question is the descriptive type of cross-sectional study is the study which does not employ the comparison group as from this chart B. Now let us see what is there in chart A. If we further go down on descriptional type of studies, the descriptional type of studies are of two types, which involve the individuals and which involve the populations. Please remember this point, because invariably you may be asked a question from this part or otherwise from this part. So both the charts you have to keep in mind very specifically. So let us continue with this part. The descriptive type of descriptive type of studies are further divided into those which have been done on the individuals and those which will be done based on the populations. Those which are based on populations are also called as ecological studies. Please remember this point. Population is ecological studies. Okay, those which are based on individual based cases are case reports, case series, and cross-sectional surveys. Cross-sectional surveys, what type of cross-sectional survey? These are the descriptive type of cross-sectional studies. Descriptive over here, because analytical is different over here. In chart B you see the analytical is different, because if you take cross-sectional study in toto, the cross-sectional study can be divided into two types actually. The descriptive and the analytical. If you take cross-sectional studies the whole lot into consideration, but if you classify the epidemiological studies correctly, then you will have a descriptive study different where there is no comparison group, and you will have the analytical study where there is a comparison group. Okay, so this type of classification you have to keep in your mind, because definitely you will be asked one question from this chart or from this small discussion over here. So the answer for our question is option number A, descriptive type of cross-sectional study. Next question. Unit of observation in the cross-sectional study is, the options are A, individual, B is a group, or C, both A and B, or D, none of the above. Unit of observation in a cross-sectional study is what? The answer is that it is an individual. Individual is the unit of observation in cross-sectional study. Please remember this point. C, we took the answer as individual. How does it go? See over here. In the cross-sectional studies, see the first point, observation of the cross-section of a population at a single point in time. So the unit of observation and analysis will be the individual. Okay. So based upon this, we have taken the answer over here as unit of observation in the cross-sectional studies individual. You have to keep all the other features of a cross-sectional study. The first one we have spoken, that the unit of observation will be the individual. The second one is like they collect the information about a disease burden. This is a question we have seen just now. They are also called as prevalence studies. This is also one question. Then they will ask you regarding recruitment of study participants. They will be from the population, and therefore they are the population sample. They may also ask you regarding the observation for the presence of one or more of the outcomes or one or more exposures. So all these four are the features in the cross-sectional study. So any point can be asked as a question in a MCQ. So you have to be perfect with all these 4 points in the cross-sectional surveys. And coming to the answer for our question, we have taken option number A as a answer for this question of the unit, that the unit of observation in a cross-sectional study is the individual. Next question. Case reports can include the presentation of, options are A, unique features or symptoms of a disease, B, rare manifestation of a common disease, C, new or unfamiliar diseases, or D, all of the above. The answer for this is D, all of the above. Please remember, case reports are those which include new cases or some atypical cases or new cases with unique features, or some different types of new symptoms of a disease, or a rare manifestation of a common existing disease, or otherwise new or unfamiliar diseases. All this comes under case reports. Please remember this point. See this slide on the case reports. It clearly mentions regarding the detailed presentation of a single case. There will be new or unfamiliar diseases or case of rare manifestations. It is also useful for generating the hypothesis regarding pathophysiological mechanism. So these are the points regarding case reports. From our question, The question says like case reports can include the presentation of new and unfamiliar diseases, rare manifestations of a common disease. So both which are mentioned over here. So this was asked in the option and this is asked as an option. Also include actually a unique case with unique features or case with unique symptoms of a disease. So all these three come under a case reports. Please remember this chart pertaining to the case reports. Next question. Advantage of the ecological study is what? The options are A. Relate the rate of the disease and exposure. B. Useful to test the hypothesis. Or C. Useful to study the rare diseases. So what is the advantage of ecological study? The ecological study is basically based on the population basis. Okay. Population basis. So relating the rate of the disease and exposure, yes, definitely it comes as an advantage. It is useful to test the hypothesis is no. Is it useful to study the rare diseases? No, even this is not. Rare disease comes under case series or case reports. So therefore, the answer for this question is option number A, that is relate the rate of the disease and the exposure. We have taken the answer as A, that is relate the rate of disease and exposure. How is that so? Now let us see this discussion of the ecological studies. You please remember these 3 points, point 1, point 2, point 3. In the point 1, it is written as ecological studies is done in a group as a unit of analysis. You can see the group as a unit of analysis. Then you will see no individual level information on the distribution of exposure and disease, and you will relate whether the population with the higher rates of disease also have high frequency of suspected exposure. So the option over here in our question, relate the rate of disease and the exposure, you can see the third option over here, third point over here, that you relate whether the population with high rates of disease also have high frequency of suspected exposure. So therefore, for this reason we have taken the advantage of the ecological study is the first option over here. Now let us see the other two options. Useful to test the hypothesis is in cross-sectional study, and useful for rare diseases is either a case report or a case series. Okay, or a case series. So we have completed the answer for this question, that is option number A. Let us see the next question. A researcher can assess the following by conducting a descriptive study except. The options are A. Population in which the disease was prevalent. B. Period in which the disease occurred. Or C. Risk factors of the disease. Or D. Place distribution of the disease. So a researcher can access the following by conducting a descriptive study except. Let us see the options. Population in which the disease was prevalent is correct. Period in which the disease occurred is also correct. Risk factors of the disease is also correct. So the answer for this question is place distribution of the disease. We have selected this answer, option number D, that is place the distribution of the disease. Now let us see how does it go. See over here. What the question was that a researcher can assess the following by conducting a descriptive study, and they have asked the except concept. So the options were population in which the disease was prevalent. You have the population prevalence, and also the second option was period in which the disease had occurred. So both the options are present over here in this descriptive type of cross-sectional studies. Basically, the cross-sectional studies are of two types. One is descriptive and another one is analytical. In the descriptive, you have no comparison group. Okay, this is some different question. Sometime it was asked no comparison group. You have to take as descriptive cross-sectional study as the answer. In the analytical cross-sectional study, there is assignment of a comparison group. Okay, comparison group. Now coming to our question once again, we have seen this option of period. We have seen the option of population in which the disease was prevalent. Okay, then we have seen this one, we have seen this one. Now coming to the third option, that is risk factors of the disease. Even the risk factors have also been mentioned in the descriptive type of analytical studies. So, by conducting a descriptive study, a researcher can assess the population in which the disease was prevalent, the period in which the disease occurred, and the risk factors of the disease, except except the place of distribution of the disease. This is not mentioned in the this is not mentioned anywhere in the descriptive cross-sectional studies. So the option for this question is option number D. Let us see the next question. The following study design provides group exposure and group response or oblique outcome without knowing the individual exposure and response for a specific health problem. So the options are A. Ecological study, B is cross-sectional study, C is case reports, or D is case series. Here itself they have mentioned in the question as a group exposure and a group outcomes. So they are speaking regarding population. So therefore the answer for this question is A. Ecological study, because ecological study deals with population. Rest of the three are individual basis. Chalo. Next question. Let us see the next question. Which of the following study design will be helpful if the Department of Health wants to know the burden of a particular disease? We have already seen this. The options are A. Ecological study, B is cross-sectional study, C is case series, or D case report. We have already seen this burden of a particular disease. The answer is B. Cross-sectional survey. Then next question. A clinician comes across an unusual presentation of a particular neurological disorder. If the clinician describes this single case in detail and publishes the same in a journal, then it will be called as what? The options are A. Analytical study, B. A case report, C. Cross-sectional survey, or D. Ecological study. See, when they have spoken regarding a single case, ecological study will not come into picture, and they are publishing the same in a journal, then it is definitely a case report. So the answer for this question is case report. If this question comes in the examination with the following options, then you have to mention case report as the answer. Next question. The advantage of an ecological study is that the options are A. It is an analytical in nature. B. It will cover individual level information on risk factors and diseases. C. It will be useful to test the hypothesis. Or D. It takes the group as a unit of analysis. So it is very simple answer. The advantage of an ecological study is that it will take group as a unit of analysis. We have seen this discussion previously. Then next question. In a tertiary care hospital, a surgeon collected information on the quality of life and outcome among a small group of post-operative patients after using a novel surgical device. But this is not sufficient to establish the efficacy of the surgical device because of what reason? They have given four options. Let us see those. That A. There is no comparison group. B. There is no information of risk factors. C. We do not have details of the outcome. Or D. We do not have individual level data. So when you are comparing in a small group, you should also have another small group. Because there is no other group, it is very difficult or it is not sufficient to establish the efficacy of the surgical device. So the answer for this question is A, that there is no comparison group. Next question. Population census is a dash. Options are A. Cross-sectional survey, B. Ecological study, C. Analytical study, or D. None of the above. It is been repeated again and again that population census is ecological study. The same question or the same concept they are asking in a different way. Next question. One of the major limitations of a cross-sectional study is that the options are A. It is time consuming, B. It has lower validity, C. It does not establish the disease etiology, or D. It requires a large sample size. So what is one disadvantage of a cross-sectional study? Among the options given, the answer is C, that it does not establish the disease etiology. Cross-sectional study does not establish the disease etiology. Please remember this point. The other points that it is time consuming, it has a lower validity, and it requires a large sample size are all parts of a cross-sectional study. But the major limitation is that you cannot find out the etiology. Then next question. See this next question. Characteristic of a cross-sectional study is that the options are A. We can calculate the incidence of a disease. B. It is time taking and difficult to perform. C. It is difficult to conduct. Or D. Exposure and outcome are assessed at the same time. So what is the characteristic of a cross-sectional study? Among the options given, the option number D, that is exposure and outcome are assessed at the same time, is the answer for this question. Next question. If a researcher wishes to estimate the incidence of myocardial infarction cases among a group of women using OCPs followed up for 10 years, then the researcher has to carry out what study? The options are A. Case series, B. Cohort study, C. is cross-sectional study, or D. Ecological study. The answer is very simple. It is B. Cohort study. See, why? Because cohort study, and particularly they are following up for 10 years. So this is what type of cohort study? This is a prospective type of cohort study or prospective study. Prospective cohort study. Please remember this point. Once again, if you concentrate on the question, they have mentioned that among a group of women using oral contraceptive pills and followed up for 10 years. So what is happening over here? They are getting exposed. Exposed to what? Exposed to OC pills, and they are having few outcomes. What are the outcomes? They are estimating the incidence of MI. Okay, so MI. So OC pills is the exposure, MI is the outcome. So from exposure to outcome, this comes under cohort study. This comes under cohort study. If you come the other way, that is from outcomes to exposure. If you come from outcomes to exposure, if the study is of this type, then it is called as case control study. Then it is called as case control study. Please remember, or please appreciate the difference between case control study and a cohort study. Under cohort study, if you go further, there are three types of cohort study. There is a prospective type, retrospective type, and hybrid type. That is both prospective come retrospective type. So in this question, as I already told, that it is a prospective type of cohort study where you are estimating the incidence of MI among women who were using oral contraceptive pills and followed up for 10 years. Followed up for 10 years. So you are going forward from exposure to outcome. Please remember this explanation. Next question. Which of the following is false regarding case series? Okay. Which of the following is false? So that means out of these four statements, one statement is false and other three statements are correct. Now let us see the statements. A. It studies a large number of patients with a particular disease. Or B. It allows the investigator to assess the play of chance. Or C. A common way of delineating the clinical pictures of a disease. Or D. A comparison group is present. So which of the following is false regarding case series? So let us see the options again. Case series studies a large number of patients with a particular disease. Is it true? Yes, definitely it is true. And it allows the investigator to assess the play of chance. Yes, even this is true statement. Thirdly, it's a common way of delineating the clinical pictures of a disease. Yes, even this is a correct statement. Fourthly, that a comparison group is present is wrong statement because comparison group is not present actually. There is no comparison group. No comparison group in case series. Please remember this point. Now let us see the discussion further. Now, this is the chart regarding case series. In it, they are clearly mentioned you study a large number of patients with a particular disease. A larger number may allow the investigator to assess the play of chance. So this is mentioned in our question as an option. This is mentioned in our question as an option. Also that the common way of delineating the clinical pictures of a disease. Even this point is mentioned as an option in our question. And let us see the last point, that it suffers from the absence of a comparison group. Okay. So there is actually no comparison group. But in our question, they have confused us by telling that the comparison group is present. So therefore, this was a false statement according to the question. So we have taken this option as the answer for this question. I request all the students to get well versed with this information on case series. Let us see the next question. All the following are true about cross-sectional studies except the options are A. Individual is the unit of observation. B. Involves only the incident cases. C. Estimates the burden of a disease. Or D. It can be used to generate the hypothesis. So this is a repetitive question. The answer for this question is option number B, that is involves only incident cases. So the except point is that it is involve only incident cases. Why? Because you take prevalent cases into consideration in cross-sectional survey. Okay. Now see, we have taken the answer as that it is involving only the incident cases, which is not true regarding the cross-sectional survey. Let us see the other statements whether they are true or not. See over here, the first option what they gave was individual is the unit of observation in the cross-sectional studies. Okay, individual was what they have mentioned is that the individual, here see individual. So this is the first point or the first option which is asked in the question. Secondly, they have asked that they have said that it is involving only the incident cases, which is a wrong statement because they are taking periodic prevalence or the prevalent cases into consideration. So that is why it is also called as a prevalence studies, and they collect information about the disease burden also, which is the third option given in the question. So 2 and 3 have been solved. Then the fourth option, it can be used to generate the hypothesis. So it can be used for generation of the hypothesis in the cross-sectional study. So therefore the option number 2, that is the involvement of incident cases is there, it is a wrong statement. The other three statements are true statements, that is individual is the unit of observation. Estimation of the to estimate the burden of the disease can be done with cross-sectional studies and it can be used to generate the hypothesis. Next question. A detailed presentation of a single case which is rare and unfamiliar is called as what? Of a single case. Okay, the options are A. Case report, B. Case series, C. Ecological study, or D. Cross-sectional study. The answer is very simple. They themselves have mentioned in the question. It is A. Case report. Next question. Which of the following is incorrect about ecological study? The options are A. It relates the rate of a disease and frequency of exposure. B. It is an example of an observational study. Or C. It uses the individual level data. Or D. It helps in generating the hypothesis. So what is incorrect about ecological study? The answer is C, that it uses individual level data, because individual level data is for case reports or case series. For ecological study, what you use? We already spoke, population. Now let us see again few points regarding ecological studies. See this slide. In the ecological studies, the group is taken as the unit of analysis. No individual, no single individual level information on distribution of exposure and disease will be taken. So only a group will be the unit of analysis and no single person. And thirdly, you relate whether populations with higher rates of disease also have high frequency of suspected exposure. So these 3 points has to be remembered, but pertaining to the ecological studies, also called as population studies or population based studies. Okay. Let us see the next question. Which of the following is not applicable in a case study? The options are A. Clinical features, B. Laboratory parameters, C. Socio-demographic background, or D. Incidence. So which is not applicable in a case study? In a case study, because it's a single case, you don't speak regarding the incidence. Incidence is not for a single case study. Okay. Then next question. To determine the association between air pollution and male infertility, data on air quality index and prevalence of male infertility was collected from 183 countries for the year 2019. So what best describes this type of study? The options are A, case report, B, case series, C, ecological study, D, cross-sectional study. I need not mention because here itself the answer itself is in the question. 183 countries, a huge population they have taken into consideration. Therefore, the answer is C, ecological study. Next question. In a medical journal, 18 cases of Creutzfeldt-Jakob disease were reported from a tertiary hospital in Sikkim. The authors of the paper gave a description of the socio-demographic, clinical and laboratory findings of 18 patients. So what best describes this study design? The options are A, case study, B, case series, C is case control study, D is ecological study. Only 18 patients are there, only from one place in Sikkim. So the answer for this question should be B, case series. Now, let us see the next question. Which of the following is false about cross-sectional studies? The options are A, can be used to generate the hypothesis, B, it can be used to establish temporality of association, or C, can be used to estimate the disease burden, or D, can be used to identify the factors associated with the outcome. So the answer for this question is B, that can be used to establish the temporality of association is false about cross-sectional studies. See, we have spoken regarding the cross-sectional studies in detail. Go to question number 22. Go back, read this question number 22 and more you will have some idea regarding the cross-sectional studies. We will quickly go to the next question. Next question, state whether true or false. Descriptive cross-sectional study does not have a comparison group. Is it a true statement or a false statement? The answer is that it is a true statement. Descriptive study does not have a comparison group. We have spoken extensively regarding this topic. Please go back to question number 7 from this chapter and you will find the explanation again. We will go to the next question. Which of the following studies can be used to identify the factors associated with an outcome? Once again, we will see the question. Which of the following studies can be used to identify the factors associated with an outcome? The options are A, descriptive cross-sectional studies, B, analytical cross-sectional studies, C, case study, or B, or D, case series. So, which of the following studies can be used to identify the factors? The answer is analytical cross-sectional study. Analytical cross-sectional study is used to identify the factors associated with an outcome. Okay. Then, next question. What is the primary goal of a descriptive study in biomedical research? The options are A, to establish the causal relationships, B, to describe the characteristics of a population or phenomenon, or C, to evaluate the effectiveness of a treatment, or D, to describe the statistical significance of findings. So what is the primary goal of descriptive study? The answer for this question is to describe the characteristics of a population or a phenomenon. In population, in the sense you will go into the ecological type of study. Okay, so the primary goal of a descriptive study in the biomedical research is to describe the characteristics of a population or phenomenon is the answer for this question. Chalo, next question. Which of the following is not a common type of descriptive study? It is a repeated question. The options are A, case report, B, case series, C, cross-sectional study, or D, randomized control trial. The answer for this question is D, randomized control trial. Please go back to question number 7 and have a look at the discussion what we have done over there. Simply I will tell over here, descriptive can be divided into again two, ecological or individual based. Individual based are all these three: case report, case series and cross-sectional study. Ecological based are those based on the done on populations. Okay, please remember this point. Invariably one question will be definitely from this concept. Let us see the next question. What is the main limitations of a case report? The options are A. Lack of generalizability, B. High cost, C. Difficulty in collecting the data, or D. Requires large sample size. What is the main limitation of a case report? Because it is a single case. So the answer for this question is easy. It is a lack of generalizability because it is for a single case. Next question. Which type of descriptive study involves documenting a sequence of similar cases, often to identify the trends or a novel phenomenon? You can decide the answer for yourself here itself. The options are A. Case series, B. Cross-sectional study, C is cohort study, or D is experimental study. What is the answer for this question? The answer is case series, because they have mentioned regarding the sequence of similar cases. So therefore it is a series. Please remember this point. Next question. Which of the following is a common method of data collection in a cross-sectional study? How do you collect the data in a cross-sectional study? Options are A. Surveys, B. Longitudinal tracking, C. RCTs, or D. Laboratory experiments. Such type of simple question may be given to confuse candidates. The answer is very simple. It is surveys. So survey is a common method of data collection in a cross-sectional study. Next question. Which of the following is typically a primary source of data in a case report? The options are A. Patient's medical history, B. Systematic reviews, C. Clinical trials, or D. Meta-analysis. So which of the following is typically a primary source of data in a case report? Once again, the first primary source of data in a case report is a patient's medical history. Such sort of simple questions will be given. As I told you previously also, we got a simple question. Examiner will try to confuse. Let us go to the next question. What is one advantage of a case series? One advantage of a case series. The options are A. It provides the evidence of causality. B. It helps to identify the patterns or trends in a group of similar cases. C. It offers control groups for comparison. Or D. It allows for random assignment of participants. So the answer for this question is, it is very easy. It is B, that is, it helps to identify the patterns or trends in a group of similar cases. Next question. In a case control study, how are the participants typically selected? The options are A. Based on their exposure status, or B. Randomly from the general population, or C. Based on their outcome status, or D. According to the time of the study entry. So how are the participants selected over here? They are selected based on the outcomes. Based on the outcome status, you select the participants. Okay. Please remember this answer. Next question. What is the major limitation of cross-sectional study in terms of temporal relationships? Major limitation of cross-sectional studies. The options are A. They provide no information about time-related changes, or B. They are expensive and time-consuming, or C. They often require large sample size, or D. They are difficult to analyze the statistically. So what is the major problem? The limitation is that the option number A, that is, they provide no information about time related changes. Okay. Then next question. Which of the following best describes a case control study? The options are A. Observes and compares the outcomes over time in two groups. B. It assesses the effect of an intervention on an outcome. Or C. It identifies and compares the individuals with and without a condition retrospectively. Or D. Collects the data at one point to evaluate the prevalence. So, what is best describing a case control study? Going retrospectively. That is C. Identifying and compares the individual with and without a condition retrospectively. Next question. Which of the following study designs is most appropriate to disseminate the information on a rare clinical manifestation of a particular disease? The options are A. Case series, B. Cross-sectional study, C. Ecological study, or D. Case control study. So which of the following study designs is most appropriate to disseminate information on rare clinical manifestation? So the answer for this question is A. Case series. Next question. State whether true or false. Population is a unit of observation in an ecological study. It is a repetitive question. The answer it is a true question. It is a true answer. Next. Next question. State whether true or false. All the analytical studies are interventional in nature. What is all is not all. Please remember this answer. So the answer for this question is B, false. Next question. Population level information is required in which of the following study designs? Again the same question. The answer directly we will take the answer over here. It is ecological study. Next question. Which of the following is used to provide information on a patient's response to an innovative intervention? The options are A, case study, B, cross-sectional study, C, case control study, or D, cohort study. Let us see the options again. The options are A, case study, B, cross-sectional study, C, case control study, or D, ecological study. The answer for this question is A, case study. Next question. Findings from which of the following study designs is least generalizable to the population? Least, not most. So the options are A, case series, B, cross-sectional study, C, case control study, or D, cohort study. Least. So the answer for this question is again case series. Next question. Which of the following statement is or are referring to an ecological study? The options are A, individual is a unit of study, B, relate the exposure and outcome at the population level, C, it is a detailed description of a rare clinical condition of a specific disease, or D, it is an interventional study. The answer for this question is B, relate the exposure and outcome at the population level. See, I told you, ecological population. Please remember this point. N number of times we have seen different types of questions on this concept. Let us see the next question. Population census can be classified under which of the following study designs? Options are A, cohort study, B, case control study, C, cross-sectional study, or D, ecological study. I am just taking the answer because we know the answer. Next question. Estimating the disease burden will be helpful in which of the following activity? The options are A, to develop the treatment protocol, or B, to know the causal relationship between an exposure and outcome, or C, to plan a health care service delivery, or D, both B and C. So estimating the disease burden will be helpful in which of the following activity? So the answer for this question is C, to plan the healthcare service delivery. Okay, then let us see this question. Identify the wrong statement. That means out of these four, three are correct and one is wrong. Now let us see the statements. A, cross-sectional studies can be both descriptive and analytical. Or B, case reports and series are useful for common clinical conditions. Or C, ecological studies can be used to relate group level data. Or D, cross-sectional surveys help to maintain the magnitude of health condition. So out of these four statements, what is wrong? Let us see the statements again individually. The cross-sectional studies can be both descriptive and analytical is a true statement. We have seen this many times. I have shown you during my explanation in this chapter itself a tabular form also, that descriptive and analytical ways you can do cross-sectional studies. Secondly, second statement, case reports and series are useful for common clinical manifestations. This is a wrong statement, because this is a wrong statement and the answer for our question, because the case reports and series are useful for uncommon clinical manifestations. See, a small word, a change in a small word from uncommon to common, they have converted and they have formed a question. So case reports and series are useful for common clinical manifestations. Actually, it is supposed to be case reports and series are useful for uncommon clinical manifestations. And thirdly, third point, the ecological studies can be used to relate group level data is a true statement. And finally, The cross-sectional surveys helps to maintain the magnitude of health condition. Yes, even this is a true statement. Now see this take-home message from the take-home messages of this chapter. Okay. The case reports and case series are useful for uncommon clinical manifestations. The first point itself, we have got the answer. And secondly, the ecological studies can be used to relate group level data. We have seen they have mentioned this as a option in our question. This is also option in our question with the change of the term. And finally, cross-sectional surveys helps to maintain the burden or magnitude of health condition. Even this has been put as an option in our question. Okay, so please get well versed with all these three statements. Okay, please see how they have converted an uncommon word into a common word and they have prepared a question. So this is the answer for this question. Let us see the last question of this chapter. Which of the following is a major limitation of a cross-sectional study compared to a cohort study? The options are A. Exposure and outcome are examined at the same time. B. High attrition rate. C. Expensive to conduct. Or D. It takes a long time to complete. We have seen the discussion previously regarding the cross-sectional study in detail. The answer for this question will be that exposure and outcome are examined at the same time is the major limitation of a cross-sectional study. So with this, we complete chapter number 5.